Hey, this is Marilyn Gigliotti.
Hey, this is Brian O'Halloran.
Hey, everybody. My name is Scott Schiaffo, actor best known as the Chulies Gum Guy from the film Clerks.
And welcome to Clerks Minute.
You're listening to Clerks Minute.
And I'm not even supposed to be here today.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Clerks Minute, the show where we break down the 1994 Kevin Smith classic, one Rick Darris fuck Caitlin Bree minute at a time. I'm Blake.
I'm Kyle.
And on the line, we have a very special guest from the Random Chatter Podcast Network, one and only Erik Blythe. Erik, how you doing?
I'm doing great.
Yes,
how are you guys doing?
It is actually, we're doing great, I'd say, right, Kyle?
Yeah.
I actually say this is really strange hearing you on my airwaves.
How's that?
It's weird for me because I'm used to hearing you in my headphones listening to shows.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's actually really weird for me. It's actually pretty cool. So,
cool.
Yeah, so there you go. Well, we are discussing Clerks minute number 60. Yes, people, we're getting late into this movie, which is not a bad thing. And for reference point, if you're joining us for this minute, go back to our previous minute, and we have the star of these of this scene, Ernie O'Donnell, on, and he'll be discussing this scene and everything going on with this movie and the behind the scenes of Clerks. That'll be in our previous minute. But for today, we continue the scene, and we find out about how Rick here had a relationship with Caitlin. But before we get to that, Erik, we were talking off air, and you were telling me that you are actually not as big of a fan of this movie as most of the guests we have on this show. Explain why.
Wow, you're going to throw me on the bus, under the bus right at the beginning.
Why not? Why not?
That's awesome. I love that. Yeah, okay, so I watched it again last night because I knew I was going to be on the podcast with you guys again today, and I wanted to have it fresh in my mind, but I did like it a little bit better this time than I did earlier, but I had first seen it years and years ago, and it felt cheap.
Oh.
It felt cheap to me, and I didn't like it. Not cheap in a budget sort of way, but just it felt like a bunch of guys just kind of hanging out, reading a bunch of dialogue off a piece of paper. In fact, there were some points where it kind of felt like you could see people almost reading cue cards off to the side of the camera and stuff. And I didn't have an appreciation for it then. As the years have gone on, and I've learned more I've seen other Kevin Smith movies, and I've learned more about Kevin Smith as a person. I'm like, you know what? It's okay that this guy was basically making a film where it's just like he gets to hang out with his friends and make a film. Like, it's okay. And when you get into some of the dialogue, it does have some depth to it, despite being a little silly on the surface. I guess I've grown to have an appreciation for the film, but I'm not as big a fan as a lot of people are.
That's absolutely okay. I have no problem with that. Well, here's the fun part. You came into a good minute because I was going through. We have the we go off film school rejects for someone broke down the commentary track and broke down into paragraphs. And the cool part about this minute has so much information, which is really cool. So, first things first, obviously Ernie O'Donnell, who was on the previous minute. But the other note is that the girl here is Heather. And who is Heather, first of all, Kyle?
Kimberly Loren, Kevin Smith's steady high school girlfriend. He's currently his manager. Let me look here. She plays Heather in here, and she has a small role as a woman in the elevator in Dogma.
Oh, okay, cool.
Dogma. She did this. She wrote and performed a song for a movie called Taillights Fade.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. Was associate producer for Big Helium Dog.
Oh.
Assistant for Kevin on Dogma, and got special thanks on Taillights Fade, Dogma, and Clerks.
Very, very cool. The other note I also have about Kim here is, according to the commentary track, he actually credits her for the inspiration behind our two leading ladies in this movie, which is really, really cool. So he apparently, I don't understand how, if he's a steady girlfriend, how he can relate to Caitlin, which I don't get. But because and just on the record, Eric, just so you know, we are very Team Veronica on this show.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because we don't understand what the hell Dante sees in Caitlin, like whatsoever.
I say again, Dante's a cuckolded idiot.
Yeah, I kind of got that in the film too. I'm kind of like, dude, what is your deal here? Like, I don't understand his concept of women, I guess.
It's like an abusive relationship in a way.
Yeah.
He's thinking, maybe I can change her this time.
Right.
Well, as we learned in this scene, though, he's been dealing with this shit from her for years. Because apparently when they were in high school, Rick here we find out that he did fuck Caitlin. Which does not surprise anybody at this point, knowing Caitlin like we all know her.
Apparently slept with half the town already.
Well, it's a small town. It's a very small town. As we learned in the animated series, this is a very small town.
That does make it easier, yeah.
Because we are based in Leonardo, New Jersey, for the remind people.
And as we found out in the animated series, she apparently made out with a Ferris wheel.
Yes, that's true. That happened in the animated series.
What? I don't even want to know.
Yeah, we're breaking down the animated series over on our Patreon page, and apparently in one of those she makes out with a Ferris wheel. That happened.
That's like a whole new level of desperation there, I think.
And right after she ran
out of guys. So there you go.
And right after she had a kissing booth that was supposedly for charity, although you don't need to pay and it doesn't go to charity, and anyone can show up. Dude, she's cheating on you.
So, also, we have the original script up. And in the original script, they actually had a change. They actually pulled dialogue, believe it or not. They pulled dialogue from this scene completely. Because they were talking about... Apparently, they didn't even mention the fact that he drove a Trans Am in friggin' high school. That was brought up in the script. And also the fact that at one point, and this is actually something Heather says to Rick, that was not in the script, because we usually watched a minute. It says, I remember Caitlin telling us about that time you two went to that hotel, the one with the mirrors and the hot tub in the room. Yeah. Wow. What?
Yeah.
Yeah, that one, that's a lot. That's a lot there.
Dude, this is where the ship should have gone down, all hands. Also, in this, according to the commentary track, Rick here is supposed to actually be taking girls to the beach so they can have sex. But they cut the dialogue. So later on, I think it's in the next minute when Heather actually suggests they go to the beach. It makes absolutely no sense anymore because the reference is gone. So I can't believe how much was cut from this scene. Like, it's crazy to me. How much was cut? So, I will ask you though, Eric, after rewatching the movie, do you consider yourself a Randall or a Dante?
Ooh. I guess I'm more Dante, but I don't know. I'd like to think that I make better choices with women. Maybe that's presumptuous on my part, but yeah, I mean, if I had to choose between the two, I have an appreciation for Randall, but I think I would definitely be more of a Dante. I think I don't think I could be quite as socially inappropriate as Randall and feel comfortable with that.
It's funny.
I'm a little too concerned with what other people think of me, I think.
I can agree with that one. It's funny because I've been saying this for a while, and my old best friend when I lived in Jersey I always joke, was my Randall. Because he was the one that got me in trouble all the time, and he was the one that always spoke his mind and didn't give a fuck. And now it's like, I don't have that anymore, and suddenly my life's a lot better. Yeah.
Well, in some points in life, it can be good to have a Randall, though, because then that makes you look better. It makes you look like the sane one, the reliable one, the one that people can go to, whereas this guy's obviously like an idiot.
Yes.
So it's like an anti-wingman, but in a good way.
Yeah.
You know?
It's funny how you word that. It's a very good point. Well,
It depends on what stage of life you're in, I think. There is a certain point at which, though, that a person like that can get you into more trouble than it's worth. So,
yeah, it's very true. There's a reason why me and him don't speak anymore, and he was my friend when I was in my 20s. There's a reason for that. So, speaking of getting in trouble, meanwhile, in the background of this conversation, we have a well-dressed man writing out something. We don't know what's going on in the background, but who is this guy, Kyle?
Ken Clark, and this is his only movie.
His only movie, and apparently he pops up later in the movie as well. One of our favorite people that show up in this movie multiple times. I'm shocked at this point this isn't Walt Flanagan. At this point, I really am not surprised.
Why don't we just replace everybody with Walt Flanagan?
Yeah, Eric, I don't know if you caught on to this rewatching the movie, but Walt's in this movie like 7 times. At different characters.
Yeah, I didn't catch it that many times. I did catch it a few times.
Yeah, we're as of where we are recording, we're at 4 times that we've seen him. At least 4 times already.
Wow. I mean, he's obvious as the guy with the eggs.
Yes.
Who gets offended. I mean, you're sitting there, you're like, oh, that's Walt Flanagan.
Well, what's funny about it is...
I didn't catch the others until like later viewings, and even then, I think I only caught like maybe one more. I think he was one of the smokers.
Well, he actually plays 2 characters within like 3 minutes of each other.
Wow.
As we found out watching it back. We don't see his face, but you hear his voice, and then all of a sudden he turns around, oh shit, it's Walt again. That's him again. Like, wait a second.
Fortunately for Kevin Smith, I think he has more resources now for casting, so that's good. He's moved in the right direction in the industry. He doesn't have to reuse people as much.
Well, Walt's also too busy being a comic book man now, so it helps.
And this will actually be Kevin's nod to the Star Wars special editions. He'll go back and digitally add Walt into every role.
That would be cool. I would love to see a special edition of Clerks, just to see stuff, nonsense added into the background, just because.
Well, I know we're doing the Clerks 10 edition. That's our DVD set, and there is a second cut, the director's cut, with an extra ending. With the original ending, he edited it out. We're going to talk about that when we get to the end of the movie. We're actually, like, I'll just spoil people that don't know this. It's on the DVD set where Dante actually gets killed.
Wow!
They cut that because they didn't think that was a good ending. They cut that.
Oh, that's harsh.
But it kind of fits in with the whole "I'm not supposed to be here today."
Yeah, so that ties in. We'll talk about that obviously when we get to the end of the movie. Yeah. But that's on the DVD set.
Wow, I'll have to check that out. I had no idea.
Yeah, it's the Clerks X edition of the DVD. It came out a while. It was for the 10-year anniversary of the movie when they released it.
Blu-ray.
Oh, the Blu-ray too? Is on the Blu-ray as well?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So, all of a sudden, our suited man in the background just comes up to Dante and hands him a fine for $500. I'm like, okay. It's for a violation of New Jersey Statute Section 2A. This is actually in the script. I'm reading exactly what it says here. Number 2177/51. Wow, that one hurts to say out loud. Any person who sells or makes available tobacco, and it cuts off, I'll just keep reading it anyway, tobacco or tobacco-related products to persons under the age of 18 is regarded as disorderly.
That makes sense.
It does make perfect sense, actually.
I can't argue with not wanting to sell tobacco to. How old did they say the girl was? Like 4?
I think ironically, we just did this minute.
I think it was about 5 or 6.
5 or 6, and we saw it, and it was a really eerie because she looks a lot like Harley Quinn Smith. But Harley, obviously, this is way before he even met Jennifer Swadak. It's just kind of eerie how similar they look. Kyle pointed that out when we were watching
the scene. It's like Twilight Zone shit there.
Huh.
It's really
I'll have to go back and look at that. I didn't. I guess I've seen Harley so recently in Yoga
Hosers.
Yeah, right, Yoga Hosers. That I don't think I've seen much of her at that age, so I don't know that I would have made the connection.
You can see her in Clerks too.
And also, Jane and Silent Bob Strike Back, right? She's in that movie too, I believe.
Yeah.
Where is she in that movie?
She's actually, I believe she's young Kevin at the beginning of the movie. Huh. She's young Kevin Smith, but young Silent Bob.
Yeah.
Oh,
okay. And Silent Bob get old before they grow up and become them.
And in Clerks 2, she's the kid that Dante waves at during the 1979 sequence.
Yes. That also happened. We'll talk about that when we get to Clerks 2. So, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
But, she's in those movies. Yeah, Kyle pointed it out to me. I was like, wow, it's eerie. That's really eerie. How similar she looks.
The only other thing I got to throw in here is
Go
someone should tell Dante that behavior like Caitlin's usually leads to the burning bed.
I don't get that reference.
That's that movie with Farrah Fawcett where she sets her abuse